Hello and welcome to Behind the Stars,
a celebrity astrology podcast where we talk about the most famous or infamous celebrity of the week, and we use their birth chart to help teach you astrology.
My name's Evan Burke. I am a self-taught traditional astrologer.
And I'm Lauren Hansen. I'm also self-taught Western modern astrologer.
And today we are talking about a Cancer Sun, Aries Moon, Gemini Rising.
That's right. We are talking about Pamela Anderson.
The one and only.
Oh, she's so pretty.
All right, thank you for joining us today. Like we said, we're talking about Pamela Anderson. She was born July 1st, 1967 at 4:08 a.m. in Ladysmith, British Columbia, Canada.
I did not know she was Canadian until we researched her.
I vaguely remembered it,
No
but
idea.
then it makes sense now that I'm she's so polite.
Yeah, she's so sweet. Yeah. Okay, it makes sense.
All right, so like we said, her sun is in Cancer. Let's start with that.
Okay, sure.
She's definitely an emotional person, but not overly emotional, which I love. And she also is the epitome of a mother.
She is now more, maybe. Do you think? Do you think she was always thought of kind of like mom? I mean, she was always known to be very sweet.
Yes, I think motherly. She was always kind of like that caring
sweetheart.
And,
yes.
And nothing says Cancer like a big pair of breasts.
Like a big pair of boobies, because it is the sign of bosoms and breasts. It truly is.
They feed children.
She did buy them though.
Yeah, I mean she
was destined to have them though.
She did have a little bosom to work with, and then she just added more.
She added more. Yeah. She loved the bosom because she's a Cancer. So Cancers are known always to be mom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes known to be overly sensitive. Some people like to classify them that way. Usually creative.
Not as sensitive, I feel like, as a Pisces.
No, you're right. I think Pisces gets a worse rap for being sensitive, but Cancer gets it too, I'd say.
But I think the difference is that Cancer is regular sensitive, and Pisces is just so sensitive that they just take on everything.
Everything, yes.
Where Cancer's just dealing with their own emotions, Pisces dealing with everyone else's emotions.
Agreed. But I think that maybe something that's not really talked about with Cancer is that leadership quality, right? Because it's a cardinal sign.
Yep.
So it's the water sign that is cardinal, and we'll talk about in a moment her moon that is also a cardinal sign, but it's the fire element. It's Aries.
Yes.
But okay, back to Cancer. I mean, they just love to be nurtured, and they love to nurture others. And I always think of them as a sign that's here to create safe havens, like literal homes or emotional safe havens. They're here to master being that shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're also here to learn that they need to cry on other people's shoulders is basically what they're here to learn. And there's a lot about the digestive system too. It's not just breasts. It also rules the stomach. And that's because that's where we feel our emotions.
Yeah.
It's not your gut instinct. Yeah. Exactly. So that's why Cancer rules both of those. What else do we want to say about Cancer? Because we're just going to touch on it.
I feel like Cancer, just in general, people like to project onto Cancers. There's something about Cancers that make them really receptive to other people's feelings and judgments and things like that. And
it is that mom energy, I think. Yeah,
and I think we can obviously see with Pamela Anderson that everyone projected their insecurities, their feelings, their judgments onto her, whether it was warranted or not.
Yeah, agreed. But as anybody who really knows Cancers, they aren't as overly sensitive and soft, yes, on the inside, but as one might think, they really are that cardinal leadership sign. So she kind of handled it. She handled it.
Yeah. Well, everyone assumes that a Cancer is a crybaby. And
isn't Khloe Kardashian also a Cancer? Or is she a Cancer moon? One of her mains is Cancer.
She has a lot of Cancer. I think she has a Cancer stellium.
She's got a lot.
She's super motherly also.
And look at her. She has had the most embarrassing track record in the entire world. And she's still walking around like her shit doesn't stink. I mean, Cancer's energy is strong. It's strong.
So let's move on to the Aries moon.
Okay, Aries moon. Okay.
That's very Aries. Let's go.
Let's move. Let's keep going. Okay, this is where I feel like a lot of her innocence comes from, right? It's the baby of the zodiac.
It's the first sign.
Yeah.
And so it's the youngest. It's the most naive.
It's most
But it's naive in a way that you don't have that filter that tells you to stop or that makes you wary of what's going to happen. So you have the courage to kind of just go for things.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we would agree that Pamela Anderson had the balls to leave her tiny little hometown in Canada and go shoot for Playboy. People who leave their hometowns, typically you will find Aries in their chart. they are like babies, but they're a little naive, but they're also the warrior, right? The survivor. They're determined to experience life, to have adventures, to take risks, to go for it, to pioneer, like all that shit. So having that Cancer and Aries come together, it's really beautiful because there's a side to her that's really a survivor and really strong. They both are strong. So she was never going to just like fall apart.
Yeah.
But one is more warrior-like and the other is like more nurturing. So you could see how she could pick and choose the right time.
Yeah.
To kind of like, hey, I need to slow down, get my space and like be emotional right now. And like, hey, I'm going to punch you in the face right now. So I'm sure that's a part of her life, learning which to be when, you know?
She told this great story in her Netflix documentary about how she came to the United States to pose for Playboy. It was her first time like on a plane. It was the first time like she had ever left Canada or a small town. Yeah. And she talked about like going to the airport and telling like the person like, I'm going to go pose for Playboy. Can I get like a ticket to Los Angeles? And they're like, no, you don't have a visa for this. Like you can't go. And
oh my God, she had no idea.
She had no idea how it worked. So then she had to cross the border. And then once she was in the United States, she could fly to LA. And like, this was like at the time where it's not like you had cell phones. So it's like,
you can
she wasn't able to like call up the people at Playboy and say, hey, I'm running into an issue at the border. So it was just like, she had to figure out how to do it.
And she did.
Yep.
Because she's made of cardinal signs, baby, except for her rising. We'll touch on it real quick.
Yeah, well, I think it works really well with those because it's mutable. And so she's able to adapt to whatever.
Yeah, she's a chameleon. I mean, it's Gemini. She's a rising Gemini, which is literally the sign of the chameleon. But any mutable sign is helpful because they can adapt to new situations and environments more easily than any other sign. And for somebody going from a small town to friggin' LA and posing for Playboy and just being able to kind of just go, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more rising Gemini or rising mutable sign than that.
Also,
really.
just I think with rising, because it's like how you present yourself and how people see you, is that like the twins, the twins. She got to the twins.
Yes.
But also she looks very airy, like the beautiful blonde hair. She looks like windswept, and like that's air. She looks extremely light. The way she would run on the beach in slow motion is very Gemini.
She looks like she weighs 1 pound when she's doing that.
And
run.
she said, she's like, that's actually not very easy to run in slow motion. Like the way you have to like move your body. It's not like they just slowed the video down. Like she had to.
She did?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they slowed the video down a little bit.
But she had to also.
But she also had to like exaggerate the movement so that it looked like it made sense. But
can you picture? I don't know. I could never take myself seriously doing that, and I doubt she did either. Like yes and no for the yes, it's a job, but I'm sure she had fun doing it.
She said it was like the most fun she had ever had was filming Baywatch. So
basically, rising Gemini, we've talked about it in our Amanda Bynes episode because Amanda Bynes is also rising Gemini, but it's the sign of the chameleon. It's a sign of play. It's related to childhood and children in a way as well, kind of like Leo, which is why they're two very playful signs. But yeah, and it's somebody who wants to learn a lot of different things and is endlessly curious. And it's the youngest air sign, just like her moon is the youngest fire sign, just like her sun is the youngest water sign. She's got a lot of young, fresh energy, you guys. Yeah, she's ready to go out and play. Is that all we want to say maybe about her sun, moon,
that's
rising?
A good big three discussion.
Yeah.
Let's move on to quite the hard aspect.
Yes.
This one is very like easily apparent. It's not easy at all by any means, but
not for her to live.
No. She has Saturn in the 11th house in Aries, and it is square with her moon in Cancer.
Her sun. Yes, her sun.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Both would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Both are very challenging. I would actually like square sun maybe a little more.
Really? I don't know.
No.
I feel like square sun, like things are happening to you that are affecting like you on an external level.
You have more control over if it's a moon.
Whereas like if Saturn squares your moon, that's like some deep rooted shit.
Yeah.
Like that is like trauma, and that's emotional trauma. Which I mean, she definitely had that, but like I feel like it's easier to process trauma when it's against your sun versus against your moon. Right.
Did I say I would rather my moon?
You said rather.
Who knows what I said? They're both difficult, okay? They're both not fun.
No, nobody wants a Saturn square.
No, because, and I'm going to start it off this way. The sun in some way represents your father, and in some way the moon represents the mother. So, and with a square with Saturn, and the Saturn also has to do with the father, but the point is that either way, there would be something really bad connection between you and your father or you and your mother, and both of those scenarios suck. And end up becoming a whole adulthood of unraveling whys and building self-worth. Anyway,
well,
that's that's with this
and
aspect.
speaking of the son and the father, her father was abusive and an alcoholic.
Yep.
And so that was a very difficult thing that her mother had to get them out of that situation. And it carried on into Pamela's life with many of her partners. She ended up marrying abusive and drunks, like
over and over again.
And I mean, daddy issues. That's Saturn square sun.
Yeah, so it's so frustrating. So usually when you see like the Saturn and the sun square, it's not only like father wasn't so great. It usually means he was absent in some way, left, maybe came back. Usually if absent can very often mean the dad was like an addict of some kind, because they are absent in a way, like because they're drunk all the time or they're on drugs all the time, or maybe they were traveling for business all the time. But usually it's like they're not really there. And the result is the chart holder, in this case Pamela Anderson, deeply, on a deep level, feels like she has to build her own level of self-worth.
Yeah.
Insecurities started at a ripe young age, and it also means she had to grow up fast. This is usually very predictive of somebody who had a childhood where they had to grow up fast and they got really hard lessons at a time where they really shouldn't have. And we know that it's true. Yeah. Because unfortunately she was raped at 12. You know what I mean? Her dad was absent quite a bit. So it's like she did have to grow up fast. She did have to be tough. And what it also tells us is, this relationship with authority. Yeah. Not really a fan, but partially because she feels she had to grow up and be her own authority. So why is she going to listen to anybody else? She didn't feel like she had the right authority for herself. Right. That's kind of the story that this tells. Yeah. Right.
Well, the thing is that square also, if you look at the houses between the 11th, where that's how people see you and like your audience and your following and all that
that's
stuff.
That's where she has Saturn.
Yes. Yeah. And it's squaring her second house of finances and personal possessions. And those things were taken from her as well, where it's like, her innocence was taken by being raped at such a young age. Yeah. And then that carried on into her sex tape being stolen and being sold off for a ton of money, second house. And so that, again, like the public image and your finances. And she would talk about how people would make so much money off of that tape, and she never saw a dime from it. Yep. And so those are very like at odds with each other, where it's
like a reflection of her own childhood that we got to see play out like in her adulthood. Yes. That's what a trip this shit is. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean?
Like watching the documentary, I was like, this aspect is so apparent in so many different areas of her life. Like when it was like very literal with like the father, or if it's like, I guess, interpreted like interesting with like the sex tape, or abusive partners, and just so many different aspects where this aspect shows up.
And it's also weird too, because as Saturn represents your reputation and your public image, which is why this comes up. But also Saturn is representative of like where we find it in the chart, shows kind of what you're committed to and what you naturally feel responsible for as well. And her having it in Aries, right? She naturally feels very like committed to being a little like being a fighter, being a survivor, being somebody who has some independence. So no matter how much she may be totally into being a romantic, which she is very much, she also feels this commitment to being, even Aries, like maybe being a sex symbol, being independent, being this kind of like fiery woman. Right. And that tends to clash, as we're talking about a square here, with this sun in Cancer, where she loves being a mom. Yeah. She loves feeling
animals.
She loves animals. She loves feeling nurtured. She loves letting like laughing. Cancers usually love to laugh constantly, have a good time. Everybody eat, everybody laugh, everybody have a good time and feel safe. So we see that play out in her real life too, because probably as she switched to a mom, I didn't watch any interviews. Did she ever get made fun of once she became a mom or anything? Like, is anybody like...
Oh,
yeah, they had to be like, oh, Pamela Anderson is a mom.
With Tommy Lee's kids.
Yeah.
And that was part of the thing, is that Pamela loved Tommy Lee, and she loves love. And so she really comes from this really like Cancerian place of like wanting to spread love, wanting to receive love and all this stuff. But I feel like... And I remember as a kid thinking Pamela Anderson was this like super edgy, like fiery person, but really she was really sweet and kind of innocent. Yeah. And so that's like that square also is like her public reputation of like being this sexy, symbol, fiery like
Saturn
person,
and Aries,
like married to this rock star who she just met.
4 days ago.
Yeah.
I love that she did that.
I
She's
know.
so funny. We got to talk about why she did that.
Yeah.
We're going to get there very soon.
Well, yeah, let's keep this moving.
Yeah, let's keep this moving.
I want to touch on really quickly just her Mercury is trine Neptune. As I'm watching the documentary, she has notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of her journaling.
Apparently she's been journaling her whole life.
Her entire life.
She's a writer.
Yeah, and so it's funny she didn't want to revisit any of it. Like she personally didn't want to read them on camera. She was like, if you can have somebody else read these for me, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But she was extremely poetic in the way that she would write things. And I think she's an amazing writer. And just that like Mercury communication and Neptune art, she artfully communicated all of this.
Yeah, when Mercury and Neptune connect, you get a lot of lyricists and poets.
Yes. And just like Neptune is in her 6th house of like routine.
So she was routinely
writing in that journal. And then it would translate over to film. Like her and Tommy Lee would record everything, which is why
Neptune.
the sex tape ended up happening. But like it evolved over time to go from like one to the next. And I thought that was like really beautiful. And there's a reason she was able to tell her story in the documentary this way, is because she kept everything. Absolutely everything.
So if you're on the precipice of becoming famous, start writing everything down.
Yeah.
I feel like you could save that and make some
everyone has
money.
a cell phone now, so you can just record yourself.
Yeah, you can
like,
just
all the
record
time.
yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, but the writing, that's
I
lost
know.
art. Well, okay, so this is kind of another reason why she also is a writer too, right? Because I want to talk about her ascendant in Gemini that's also making a trine to Mars that she has in Libra. This is, okay, we're talking Mars again. This is like Aries, Mars, warrior, sex symbol, right? So she has Mars flowing easily into her ascendant point, her mask, what we see. So she has a Martian-like kind of mask over her at all times. So she is a sex symbol. This is so friggin' literal.
Yeah.
But she's a sex symbol that has an innocence to her. Why? Because Mars is actually in detriment in its worst position in Libra, where we find it. Yeah, maybe she has Mars making a free flow to her ascendant point, but it's a weak Mars. It's a Mars that is passionate about like partnership and puppies and love and la 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 la. It's not like I'm gonna fight and fuck.
Yeah.
It's like I'll have sex, but we'll make
Right.
love, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that.
I feel like that Mars in detriment, like it's making the connection.
I feel like Britney Spears' face is kind of telling the same
Yeah.
story right now.
But like the Mars is making that communication, but it's like a little muffled, where
Yeah.
it's like it gets lost in translation, where it's like, okay, she's a sex symbol, but she's not like that, like kind of
not
sex
that-
symbol.
yeah.
Like she's really just a sexy person who is sexually self-liberated, and like people feel uncomfortable by that, where she's not trying to like push it on anyone.
Yeah,
She's not
and-
trying to like.
No, she's just being herself. And that's the other
Yeah.
thing too, is as your rising point also has to do with kind of your physical look and body and how you carry yourself. She is she can easily emulate like a sexual walk or a tease. And she's known to be doing a strip tease is like easy for her, like just natural.
Yeah.
Like nobody probably, I'm sure she took lessons, but I doubt she really had to be taught that much. There's something just sexy about her. Now, I just wanted to touch on this whole writing thing. Hello, she has Mars in Libra and her ascendant point in Gemini. Gemini is the literal writer of the zodiac, but all air signs are known to be writers, communicators, podcast listeners, creators, all that kind of stuff. It's all about communication. So we're doubling down. I'm not surprised she was writing all the time.
I mean, her whole chart's ruled by Mercury.
Yeah.
So the communicator Hermes delivering like
information.
Yeah,
maybe.
all the time. She can't help it.
Yeah.
She's always delivering information.
And that's why part of why I think she also was so affected maybe by by other writers, as in people, what are they damn called? My brain is not working right now. Paparazzis, articles, all that kind of shit. I feel like that came for her more than, I don't know, it really came for her.
Yeah.
I feel like you can also almost attract people talking about you if you're going to be like a rising Gemini. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What's funny is I think she was like ahead of the curve when like because social media didn't exist. Thank God. But if it did exist, she would have been able to get her message out better. Like she had to appear on all these talk shows.
Thank God in general, not thank God for Pamela Anderson.
Yeah. But like you see, she was ahead of the curve. Like she was always taking notes. She was always taking videos. Like had social media existed at the time, she would have been posting all that stuff.
Yeah, she would have.
And because that wasn't an option, she just kept them in journals and kept them on cassette tapes and just locked them away in her safe.
I wonder if social media is part of the reason why she stayed with her look, though. I would be so mad if Pamela Anderson started looking like every other
You know, it's like kind of interesting.
You know?
Is that you would think that she'd have like some fixed energy in that chart with how consistent her look is.
Was?
Yeah.
No. I think she just really I think she got used to it. She built her self-worth in her adulthood, and everyone really liked her in this way. And she's like, I'm going to stay like this.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fans with me like this. I think that's part of it, at least. But anyway.
Did you have anything else about the ascendant and Mars? Or
No, I really want to. Let's get into her love. Like, do you want to do that?
Yes. Venus is sextile Mars. We got
we'll
Venus and Leo in the third house, and
Venus and Leo, me too.
Yes.
Yay.
And we got her Mars and Libra in the fifth house. That sextile is one of those like energies that, I mean, anytime Mars and Venus touch each other, it makes for a very flirtatious,
passionate
energy. Yeah.
Little something going on.
And a sextile is one of those energies that's like, if you don't tap into it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
But if you do, then it's like boundless amounts that you can pull from. And so she tapped into that from a very young age, and she was able to get recognized for not just her sexual energy, like her flirtation came off the page in Playboy and allowed her to do television.
But if she never had the opportunity to do something that was kind of like to the theme of what a Venus in Leo and Mars in Libra have in common, which is going to be playful, flirty, like all those kind of themes, if she never put herself in a scenario where she could exude that kind of energy, I don't know, she could be some like accountant assistant somewhere, like hating life.
Yeah.
But because she got, like, this was the perfect place for that kind of energy.
Well, and I think that those sextile energies, it's like the universe is going to give you these opportunities.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to them and capitalize on them.
And that Sun square Saturn that she has, I mean, she could have easily let life crush her down.
Yeah.
Speaking as a Sun opposite Saturn, it is a very depressing to have Saturn having a hard aspect with your Sun. It is quite literally one of the most depressing aspects you can possibly have. Neptune can really do a doozy on you too.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, but anyway, so she could have given up.
Yeah,
but she did it.
But like she was given all these opportunities because of that sextile. I believe that like she told this story about how she went to a football game in Canada.
Like Canada hockey.
Yeah. She went to a football game and she ended up on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And they loved the way that she looked. And so then they like, will you model clothing for us? And so
is it just her and Kate Upton that have this story, or are there other people?
Maybe.
They're the only two I know of who just like got discovered like eating popcorn with their big titties.
Exactly.
Like,
but then it kept like blossoming into other things. Then Playboy found her because of that. And then like TV found her because of that. And she just got more and more opportunities. But the thing is, I'm sure lots of people get those opportunities, but we're just not aware of them. Yeah.
And you know what? I think also why she noticed them too, this is my theory, is that midheaven that she has that is connected to both Pluto and Uranus, the planet of like generation and public image. I just feel like she was so destined to be seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not everybody has any aspect with their midheaven, like at all. And especially not with like outer planets that affect a generation. But like there's something, you look at her chart, there's so many exact varying degrees with these generational like planets that affect the whole world. And they're all hitting her public image. It was like she needed to be in front of all of us, I feel like.
Yeah, there
was
no option to stay in the background for her.
No, y'all put a Jumbotron on, find her. There we go. Let's go.
Exactly.
Pamela Anderson's going to represent a generation now. Anyway, it's very defining.
I want to talk about her Venus and how it is square Neptune.
I mean, I could talk about this for 100 years. We don't have 100 years.
We don't have 100 years, but like one of the things that she is
yeah, if you have this in your chart, you listen up right now.
Yes, because you will fall for bullshit.
Yep.
Over and over and over again if you do not recognize this.
Yeah.
And the thing about Pamela Anderson
it's very dangerous.
and she lucked out in some aspects of this because you know what, her boundless optimism kept her going and all these different things, but she fell for the wrong guys over and over and over again. Yeah. And Pamela Anderson has said it herself. She loves love. Her sons said she loves love. She loves falling in love. She loves falling out of love. She loves the whole process of it.
Writing about the love.
Yes. And so
probably
she is looking at her entire life through the haze of Neptune, because Neptune blurs everything. It's like putting Vaseline on like this camera, now, and we're gonna look probably good because you will feel like you're drunk.
Yeah, it's like
drunk in love.
It's really like drunk goggles, honestly, on making love decisions.
Yes.
Like that is what it's like having Venus square Neptune. So, and it also, okay, so you've explained it very well.
Thank you.
But there's a lot of like, you're idealistic. That's a big word.
Mm-hmm.
You're idealistic. You're so idealistic that you aren't seeing reality. So Neptune is literally the planet of non-reality.
Yep.
It is literally the planet of non-reality, fog, confusion, delusion. And it's just in its highest vibration, it can make it so like Pamela Anderson is looking for a spiritual, because Neptune has a lot to do with the spiritual world, right? Mm-hmm. She'd be looking for her soulmate.
Yeah.
Usually people with this aspect are looking for their soulmate. That's how they feel. And they're also simultaneously very unrealistic about maybe how they're going to meet or how intense their connection's going to be or how much they're going to change each other's world, or like their whole world's going to become magic the second this person walks in. And it kind of does because they're in their own reality during it. But enough realistic, terrible things happen typically. And then it's all shattered. And someone with this aspect can end up in a very deep depressions and all kinds of shit after a love relationship, because they basically sign up for something that they think they're signing up for, but they're signing up for something completely different. And their friends are like, look at the red flags. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like this could have gone one of two ways. She could have either been like searching for something that doesn't exist and never finding it. Or it went the way that it did, and it's you believe everything. You like look at everything kind of doe-eyed, and so you're like you think you're in love with somebody, and she was, but I don't know, you're just falling for bullshit over and over again. She told this story about her like third husband, I think, and
she had 5.
She had like 5, and I don't think it was Kid Rock. It was another one.
Yeah,
and she
Kid Rock. I forgot Kid Rock was one of them.
And so I think it might have been husband number 4 then.
I love her, man.
She talked about how she was spending Christmas with him and the kids, and they found a crack pipe in the Christmas tree. And she was able to laugh about it. And she was like, he still to this day refuses to acknowledge that it was his crack pipe in the Christmas tree.
Me.
And the fact that like she's able to just like keep moving on, keep pressing on still. And towards the end of the documentary, she's going to start rehearsals for Chicago. And this is like her new lease on life. She has a new purpose. She has something she's been hiding in Canada for a while, and she had a reason to go back, into the United States, into the like big machine that is entertainment. And she's driving to the airport, and she's like, the only thing that could derail this is a man. And so she's like, we are not going to fall in love.
No falling in love now.
But it's so fascinating because like she knows that is her blind spot in life.
It's her total weakness.
Neptune is a blind spot.
Yeah, it is a blind spot. That's another way of putting it. So we really explained it well, but I want to give some people some hope if they have this in their chart, because it's true. There is a blind spot, which is why, and I've actually talked to quite a few other like very professional astrologers about this, and they're like, I always tell my clients, and I've definitely always told my clients too, like, you need to be the person that swallows your pride and tells your friends and family that their opinion matters. If you have friends and family that you trust and like, you know, they know what your values are, blah, 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 blah. You know, if you have a bunch of assholes, don't listen to them. But you need an outsider's opinion because you really can't see. You need to admit to yourself you don't see what's really going on. And that's just how it is. I did this recently and it felt very good because guess what? If they're really good, they're going to go, you're chilling.
Yeah.
And, you know, and if you're older and you're like, I just want crazy love shit, then be like, family, friends, you're going to have to sign up for this roller coaster with me. But don't be surprised if people are like, I can't handle your love stories.
And the thing is, like, whatever Neptune is touching, that you need an advisor in whatever it's touching.
And your advisor can actually be God in a way. Yeah. Because so basically, like, the higher vibration of this, instead of it just becoming like fog and delusion for you, if you are naturally with this aspect also somebody who really does care about like spirituality in some sense, you feel like you want to feel connected to your soul and have your own, you want to feel like you have a strong intuition, and if you work on it, you will. It's an aspect that makes it a lot easier to have one because you are sensitive to energies around you. But my point is that a really solid relationship with kind of like yourself and your intuition can get rid of a lot of the blind spots too. Can help get rid of some of it. So you're not totally walking through fog.
No.
That's like the flip of it though. It's like you can really lean into kind of being somebody who really get solid with their intuition, and then this aspect won't fuck you up as much is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's what the aspect's trying to get you to do.
There's
like
also a lot of beautiful things. There's a lot of beautiful things in the fog too.
Yeah.
Or like
sparkles.
Or just look at like Instagram. Like putting a filter on something is Neptunian. Like
if you're blurring the skin, the pores. Don't look at them.
Come on, Facetune.
Yeah, I mean we love the fog.
Yes.
So that's the thing too. You'd think that she would have gotten so much work done in a way sometimes. Like I look at her chart, it kind of could have gone either way, but her love for beauty and also having that Mars in Libra, I thought maybe she would be somebody who would get some plastic surgery because usually it's very important for somebody with Mars in Libra to come off beautiful.
Yeah.
So, with somebody with their Sun square Saturn, which usually is somebody whose self-worth is a constant battle to make sure it's high, I think maybe she would have fallen for a lot of plastic surgery, but I am happy she does not look like an inflated cat like some other one.
Also, like, she has her...
she looks great.
She has her moon in the 11th house. Like, I feel like that is also a recipe for, like, caring too much about what other people think of you.
Oh, look at
so,
us.
yeah.
Sorry, it was cute. I've never done that before. Okay. But yeah.
But the thing is, she also does really care about what people think about her.
She does, but clearly not to the point, and maybe this is her cardinal energy being so strong, not to the point where she's like, okay, I'm going to live in LA still. Even though, like, hello, Baywatch was 1,000 fucking years ago. I proved myself on Broadway. She's not, like, desperately still trying to be super popular and important. And I'm sorry, as people who live in LA, and we see these old farts who've lived their lives, and you know what? If they want to keep performing, keep doing it, go for it. But when it becomes this weird, like, they've got to alter their face and who they're dating, and it's like, you're like, just had your time.
The thing is that...
Why do you need to have all of time? Like,
I also think she came up in a time where maybe she wasn't having her image picked apart
as much. That's what I'm saying. I think the time period was helpful,
and so she was able to set that foundation of like self-worth and like and honestly, when you look like Pam Anderson in that period of time, and you are the most beautiful person, and everyone's telling you the most beautiful person, that's some good self-worth right there.
Yeah.
So look in the mirror and tell yourself you're beautiful every single day, so you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that my boyfriend actually said that she just I haven't seen it yet, but she just released like a photo of herself without any makeup on.
She looks great.
And he was like, she looks great. She looks like she's kind of around her age, but great. Like,
she looks like she just is taking, I mean, she is a vegan.
Yeah, she is a vegan.
And she
doesn't do drugs.
No.
And she doesn't do drugs.
She has, but she doesn't No. But she's not a drug person. She's a vegan and all that. So she takes care of herself. And to touch on, she lives back in her hometown. I think it's her hometown, or at least near it. Yeah.
It's like basically there. And that leads us to our very last point, which I just wanted to say that she has Venus conjunct her IC, which is that like bottom angle of the chart, right at the bottom. It kind of represents your childhood and your home and the kind of the story of you growing up. And so usually when people have Venus right there, it's like, oh, you had a lovely childhood. You loved your home. Like everything was warm and you're like a naturally loving and affectionate person because you got enough love from your parents. That's like bottom line what that aspect is usually means. Now we know the story of what happened with her dad. He was not so great, but also you look at interviews of her in adulthood, she doesn't really talk shittily about him at all. She's like, he loved me.
They have a good relationship now.
Yeah, she's like, he loved me. He just was fucked up. Like she still knew, I don't know what he did, but I think she still knew he loved her. She just knew like he was not able to express it. Well, which is very mature of her, may I point out. But I think she did love her hometown, like Canada, where she's from. That's obvious because that's where she lives now. So that Venus conjunct the IC makes sense to me that she would circle back and be like, fuck LA, I am going home. She loves her home.
Well, this also kind of leads me into like our last thing, like a couple transits that we looked up is she has Saturn right now is moving through her 9th house, and Saturn likes to ground whatever you're doing, and 9th house is the house of like international travel, like being away from home. Yeah. And so Saturn was like, fuck that. You're going home.
Yeah, you're going home.
You're going
no
back
international
to Canada.
travel for you.
Like it's like emotional being deported from the US back to Canada. It's like the world's telling you have to go home.
Yeah, that's actually perfect. She loves it. I was watching this one scene of her just like walking on the lake. She's like, I just walk here. She's like, I feel angels all around me. Yeah. And let me just point out, sorry, real quick, that Venus square Neptune. Remember I said like usually people are really very curious about their spiritual selves and all of that noise when they have Venus square Neptune. And she has been a very spiritual person. She's been meditating since she was like 7 years old. Her grandpa taught her. I wanted to point that out. Yeah. And then on top of it, she's been obsessed with crystals for a very long time. She's like, they're all throughout her house and everything. I
love crystals.
Oh, they do feel good. I'm finally starting to feel them again. Yes. It's very nice.
Speaking of feeling good, I wanted to talk about her Jupiter.
Oh, yeah.
Which is transiting her 11th house right now. And hello.
We're all talking about her.
Exactly. She's made this big comeback. She did Chicago on Broadway. She has this giant like documentary coming out.
Let me just say the 11th house is the house of fans, your audience, large groups you're a part of. It's the collective. It's what the collective thought. So it's what everybody thinks of you. Yep. And she has Jupiter going, here's some opportunities for everybody. It's a gift giving planet, typically. Sometimes it can be bad news, but
it feels like because Jupiter went over or is going over her Saturn like point in her chart.
Her reputation, her story.
So there was a point where that Pam and Tommy Lee show came out on Hulu, and it painted her in a bad light and brought back a terrible time in her life.
It was very depressing. She's like, I was
to watch
the worst.
it, and so she's kind of healing from that now. Jupiter is going over that point and healing that part of her chart a little bit.
Which is like such a literal thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's also just like bringing positivity to her reputation, and we're obviously seeing that, you know. And I think she said she got her, and I think a big reason why she's doing this so right is because she said she got her children involved. Like she got her sons involved in helping her make her own story. And like as just a Cancer, I think that was the move to make.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I'm gonna have my babies.
Yeah.
Help me create this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's also just they're adults now, and they're able to speak.
They're not babies.
Like we really only saw them as children because that period of time when like the news was obsessed with Pamela Anderson and Tommy
they were
Lee,
kids.
They were babies, and so everyone like was judging her as a mother and like all of this. And now as adults, you have really well-functioning adult children.
Clearly she's a good mom. They seem happy and they love her, and they don't have any weird like, oh, my mom used to make me like I've heard my mom fuck so many times. Like they're like, mom is like such a mom.
Yeah.
So good on Pamela.
Yeah, we love you, Pam.
Yeah, we love you, Pam. Aw. I'm so happy she's doing well.
Me too.
Honestly.
And you need to watch the documentary.
I do. I know.
You've seen bits, but you need to see the whole thing.
And I was relieved to find out that she had only nice memories of the Playboy Mansion, by the way. All her interviews, she's like, I was fine. She's like, I knew not to live there.
Yeah.
Again, strong, independent woman. She would never be in some sorority house like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's too much of her own mom. I don't think she was going to do that. And one thing we did not touch on, obviously, she is a huge humanitarian.
Yep.
Huge. Animals before anything, I believe. Hence why she's a vegan. But violence against women, like all this stuff. And she just has that. She has her midheaven in Aquarius. Yeah. She has her midheaven in Aquarius. She has a lot of Uranian energy, which is a very humanitarian planet. But anyway, that's painted all over her chart too, but we don't have all day.
Yeah. Well, I will say to that point, she did say that she only did the roast of Pamela Anderson on Comedy Central if Comedy Central
would promote.
Would donate $250,000 to PETA. So
I mean, she will humiliate herself for animals.
Yeah.
She's an angel.
Yeah.
I think she's a little bit of angel in her. I think so. All right, cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining
watching
us. We'll be back again soon with another episode. If you have any suggestions about who you want us to cover, let us know.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. You can follow me on all social media at Evan Burke LA.
And I'm at AstroBetch, BETCH. And I'm warning you now, if you become a fan of mine, you will also get messaged by a bunch of imposters. And I'm so sorry about that.
Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do the whole thing on the YouTubes.
And everything behind the stars. You'll see. I'm going to link it all at the bottom. Mwah.
See you guys next time.
Bye.